Hi, Mr. Vijojo. How are you? Good, good. I've just sent across an email to you. It contains a presentation regarding the monitoring of IAJ's supply chain implementation strategy. Do you mind opening that on your computer, please? Yeah, I got some handouts for myself. I'll just run you through on that. Yep. So, what we talk about is a continuous improvement on our existing supply chain, and we also bring about the metrics for measurement and determining of the KPIs. Here, the KPIs that we work out with is on the basis of cost, the partnership of suppliers, and the relationship, the customer satisfaction, and then we move on to how this data can be implemented and can be used with the IAJ supply chain. Um, After that, we'll just have a quick review of how the technology and the software is um, with IAJ. So let's start with the continuous improvement. So in today's supply chain world, in this business scenario, it is very very imperative to have supply chain network which is constantly evolving and keeping up with the new times. So a lean is a general term that is uh, used in place of continuous improvement, which focuses on identification and elimination on of waste activities that generally do not add value to either the business or the customer. So we are in the process of a constant improvement, and this comes as a big step towards going ahead with identifying how our supply chain is and measuring it against some constant KPIs. So when we say we measure metrics, we measure cost being main criteria for understanding whether the supply chain is financially uh, whether the supply chain is financially stable or not, whether uh, you can you can determine the total logistics cost, and based on how the supply chain is working. So in the slide in front of you, you have the different costs that are associated with the supply chain. So when we say the total logistics cost, we do consider costs associated with assets, the return on investment, the properties and equipment, the total cost of inventory, which covers the opportunity costing, the cost held up in finished goods as transit, risk cost associated with scrap and rework, and costs associated with shortage of inventory accounting, etc. So the list of costs are there in front of you. These things will be used to measure the cost based metric for our supply chain. When we look at the other metric, that is the supply chain partner relationship, obviously before I sent you this, I had sent across small write up saying how collaboration is very very essential in any supply chain environment. So here we need to understand what is the level and the degree of information sharing, the cost savings initiatives that either the buyer or the vendor can initiate, and basically how we can collaborate. The actual aim of this measurement is to identify issues that need to be rectified, leading to a more efficient and integrated supply chain. We need to optimize our existing supply chain um, in terms of problem solving, mutual planning. We can bring together the vendors, the buyers, the suppliers together, and develop a more efficient supply chain network. We also have another measurement that we can look at, that will be for customer satisfaction. So depending how agile our supply chain is, the metrics for measuring the customer satisfaction would be based on the flexibility of the supply chain, the query times and the time taken for our supply chain to respond to it, and the post transaction measures. So in the further slides, I will also tell you how we can develop KPIs for measuring all these three metrics. So yeah, for the first metric, if you take the cost metrics, the cost KPI will end up determining what uh, the lower, sorry, it will end up determining the supply chain cost, the lowest supply chain costs, and it also will help us align towards getting a low cost provider strategy. The basic or the best thing to get out of the cost metric is the overall supply chain cost as a percentage of sales, and the total supply chain cost per unit sold. So this gives us a very good KPI to determine how our supply chain measures against cost per unit. Mm, the other relationship KPI is the SCM, and now we have we have collaboration with the suppliers and the vendors. So the metrics that we use here would be delivery performance, which could be delivered in time, delivered in full, delivered in full on day, that's DIFOD. So these are the metrics that we can use for delivery. The fill rates, that is delivered in full or not, and look at getting the order fulfilled as close as possible. The final one is the customer satisfaction, where we end up generating the response time, the production flexibility. In our case, we don't have a production facility. We'll be looking at the response time of um, customers that tell us that place an order on us. So we are looking at um, getting higher amounts of customer satisfaction, and we will measure our existing supply chain and how it responds to the marketplace changes, either and does it have a competitive advantage or not. Once we have reviewed all this and we have decided on what the KPIs are going to be in each metric, we will then go back and review the softwares and the technology that we have. So as of now, we've got some ERP softwares, SAP. So we need to understand whether those softwares and technology that we have will uh, be able to fulfill our strategy. So a basic uh, checklist is given to us in front of you, which measures the quality, efficiency, flexibility, security, connectivity, language, documentation, support, and hardware for a software. So we will know where we stand here. So based on this, we based on these requirements, it will be very helpful in understanding what if the business enterprise corporate strategy is aligned, sorry, if the business is aligned with the supply chain management strategies as well as the budgetary requirements. uh, it's a long process. Yes, it requires a wide range of collaboration. It needs the integration of different services. It needs the integration of different softwares. The suppliers may be using something else. The vendors, the transportation company may be using some other software. So we need to understand if there is an integration between all these softwares or not. So a complete review needs to be done internally and externally for this software. And finally, we can conclude that yes, these KPIs thus derived and implemented will definitely optimize our existing supply chain network and can deliver value to the end customer. This will also align the business towards the overall continuous improvement strategy that we have, and it will also help us get a competitive advantage in the market. I hope you have understood the presentation, and any questions I can take it up later. Thank you very much.